Okay. So, I've seen a number of different note-taking implementations, whether it be in Vim, digital note-taking across the board. There's like VimWiki and, ZimWiki. They're separate wiki systems and just plain text stuff. There's like basic note-taking systems just in Bash alone. And it runs across the board. I think I've even had one installed for note-taking that lets you do it from the command line straight up like a small note script. So if we go into that, let me go ZSHRC, and then I think it's down at the bottom here somewhere. Yeah. So you've got N. So it opens the editor, NLS, NR, NS, NV, and so on. So you've got that opens a basic editor and lets you do notes and then manage the notes and move things around and print out the notes. NeoVIM has options too because it's based on Vim. You can use VimWiki or use any of the other implementations, and this one was posted by someone on a Discord somewhere that I stole, and it's Zettelkasten using with NeoVim. So basically, used to do analog note-taking and switched to digital note-taking. Now, digital note-taking does have some advantages. I like analog note-taking because in a lot of ways it is easier and you are able to stay more focused in a lot of ways because you open up a piece of paper and it doesn't have all these flashy icons to distract you from it. But digital note-taking does have searchability. You can search for what you want in there, whether it be grep or whatever. It's all in one place. It can be converted to different output formats, so if you want to share it, it's easier to share that way, as noted here. Doesn't take up any physical space, and no risk of losing notes in case of fire or other disaster. So this is where I think combining the two becomes effective. You have your analog notes and then your digital notes. So let's see. Gone through several iterations. Obsidian, various Unix options. Let's see. Few bash scripts. So yeah, go back to Obsidian, note part of larger system, second brain. So yeah, see, people refer to the notebook, whatever form it's in, as their second brain. It's where they brain dump things into. Being accessible becomes an issue depending on how you decide to do it. Having it on your smartphone makes it a little bit more accessible, but if you're not always at your computer and that's where you keep your second brain, then that's when it becomes a problem. Let's see. Entire system is beyond the scope of this article, but I plan to write about my second brain in the future as well. My system is based on the Zettelkasten method, but I've adjusted it to my own needs after a few years of experimentation. Feel that the system has reached a mature state. So it's a system of note-taking and personal knowledge management. Zettelkasten means slip box in German. Traditionally, it is a physical box of slips or papers or index cards containing similar notes. So this would be the system based, in essence, that Ryan Holiday uses. It does become rather cumbersome with slips of paper or index cards, but you can somewhat categorize them easier. Whereas other people use notebook methods where they brain dump into a small pocket notebook and then break that out into other books that are better sorted. Each of these cards have a unique identifier, and identifiers are used to create links between the cards. Niklas Luhmann, who was one of the most prolific scholars in history, used it extensively. He wrote 70 books and nearly 400 academic articles and credited the Zettelkasten with making his productivity possible. It contained around 90,000 index cards. Came across this concept by reading the book How to Take Smarter Notes by Sönke Ahrens. Sönke Ahrens. Let's see, there was a link up here. Tiago Forte. I feel like this Tiago Forte has done some... Come on. Gonna go on a quick... Okay. I don't think so. But anyway. So, why take notes? Your professional success and quality of life depend directly on your ability to manage information effectively. In the modern age, we consume very large amounts of information, much more than we remember. It is therefore very important to manage your intake of information, but also the retention of that information. I find that taking notes on topics that may be of interest to me at any given time helps me understand the subject much better because it forces me to clearly formulate my thoughts and convert them to a written form. Over a large collection is built up, which can be used to generate new ideas. So I kind of have like a system this way. I've got like certain sections of various notebooks for like different ideas for videos. And even then, after I write them down, sometimes I end up crossing them off because it's like, maybe not, but it's there just in case. And sometimes they get mixed in with other notes. So I end up going occasionally through and reviewing through them, sorting things out, and like moving notes to different books, commonplace books, and things like that. So you sort and you generate ideas based on these other ideas that you're managing. But as you're intaking ideas, you've also got to kind of sort out which ones are important and which ones aren't. So if doing a certain set of tasks is important, it may be it would be necessary to write those tasks down so that you don't forget them. And you're using brain power to store that information in your head rather than writing it out or getting it out somewhere else. So what do I take notes on? Firstly, keep a daily journal where I write down my thoughts, feelings, activities that I undertake. Some days may be several pages worth, and other days will only be had a nice day today, but I made a point to write something down every day. Secondly, I write about the topics I study. I'm always learning something on a new DevOps, cloud engineer, and new developments are made constantly in the cloud native landscape. Always more to learn. Notes are not only work related, I also keep notes of the research I do for all of my interests, such as health, longevity, exercise, diet, blah, 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 blah. I made a habit out of always writing a note when I read a book, watch a documentary, or listen to a podcast. These notes can be a short summary, a few thoughts come to mind, or a few bullet points that capture the main takeaways. These activities are usually accompanied by taking notes, reading, watching video courses, watching educational YouTube, researching hobbies and interests, coding, reflection, interesting conversations, and listening to podcasts. So I've done such note-taking before in a fair variety of these ones. So if I come across like a part of a podcast that like I find relevant to either something that I'm doing, I will generally take notes and bullet points on it. I've got a couple different notebooks that I've been experimenting with, like the Rocket book, that I've taken some notes in like this category on. Others, it's generally been, something like this. Overall, it's generally gone into a notebook to, in essence, be later sorted or kept to where it's at. But I may have to put together a whole separate, I would like to put together a whole separate book altogether for that. But then sometimes you have this, and usually the interests and hobbies turns into a video. Now on the first point here, I halfway do this. So with the bullet journaling method, there are days when I forget, and there are days when I play catch up when I'm sitting and like reflecting, okay, what did I do like in the last couple of days? What was interesting in the last couple of days? And then I note those down because it's kind of important for, one, keeping track of what I've actually done. Then I don't feel like I'm doing absolutely nothing. And two, trying to keep track of interesting things that go on, because sometimes you want to hold on to that for posterity's sake as well. So I at least reflect like weekly for the most part on what goes on. And I work on making it more frequent so that I'm not having to hold on to that so much. So here's an overview of the system. Screenshots, I like it. My system is a modified Zettelkasten system that incorporates daily notes for journaling. The Zettelkasten method emphasizes small atomic notes containing only your own thoughts and links to other notes. However, I choose to also make longer notes. For example, when I did the Fundamentals of Bicep course, I made one large note that contains all the information I wish to remember or refer to later. In this particular use case, I think it's much better to keep everything collected in one note, rather than breaking this note up in smaller notes on parameters and variables, for example. Another area where I diverge from traditional Zettelkasten is categorization of notes. Traditionally, Zettelkasten is one big repository of notes. This is where it can sometimes be cumbersome, and then categorizing things out into different boxes makes it easier to sort through. But I like to keep them loosely collected. When I create a new note, my system places that note in an inbox directory. Once a week, I go through my inbox and revisit all my notes. So again, this comes down to, you can do this with analog systems, and you end up revisiting notes and sorting through what's important and what's not. Sometimes I'll throw some notes again because I don't think that they're necessary at all. When I decide to keep it, I put it in a directory that I find suitable. Again, sorting into a different analog book. I have a directory structure based on the para method, but I also have a large Zettelkasten directory where I put anything that does not necessarily belong to a category. And that's the hard part, is oftentimes when I'm sorting through things, what doesn't belong, what doesn't fit into a category well, often stays in the book, but I can reference it later easier because I've sorted through a lot of other things and crossed it out. And so I know, okay, this is going to be somewhere else or whatever. I mostly keep, and I cross it out such that it's still legible to read. I mostly keep some notes collected in a directory because I expect to use them as a collection at some point, or because I want to run scripts on the files. Every day, a daily note is created that contains a few checkboxes for habit tracking, and sometimes I'll include an inspirational quote in my template for a while. So, simple system for organizing your digital life in seconds. Project area resource archive. Interesting. Okay. Okay, so you've got your projects that are short-term efforts in your work or life that you're working on, area long-term responsibilities you want to manage over time, resource, topics or interests that may be useful in the future, and archive inactive items from the other three categories. So you can sort it into subfolders upon subfolders of things, basically. So this is what one such thing looks like. Okay, so intention, tracking, and log. So it halfway feels like bullet journaling in a sense, in that you're trying to lay out your intention for things, you're keeping track of like to-do lists on things, and then you're in essence rapid logging on what's going on. Okay, local text files. It is important to use locally stored markdown text files. This is mainly why I moved away from Notion. My notes are stored on my local machine rather than a third party. This gives me complete control over my data, which I appreciate. Plain text, it also takes up less space, but anyway. Because my notes are stored as markdown files, I can use various tools to write or edit my notes. Moreover, storing my notes as local files allows me to run scripts on my notes and customize my workflow to my heart's content. This can be especially useful for automating tasks, streamlining my work, or making bulk updates. I have my collection backed up in several places and on GitHub. I recommend this article about the benefits and merits of using Markdown for note-taking. So I've used Markdown for a couple things. VimWiki uses Markdown largely, and that is a local repository of text files, but it doesn't quite sort it out the same way as this method does here. So let's see, Markdown, simple markup language, types of Markdown, standard Markdown. Oh, you can find a Markdown cheat sheet in a lot of places, but anyway. I've used Markdown even to write articles previously for a website on ROM hacks, and I'd convert the Markdown into a doc file or into a doc file, and then I'd send it off to be submitted. And I had a lot of flexibility with that in my workflow. So I could alter my general workflow in editing, but still be able to output the same stuff overall. So there's a lot of power with this. So Vim, my preferred text editor. I use Vim, or technically NeoVIM, for all my text editing. It took a while to get used to, but my productivity related to text editing has increased significantly. I also find it very enjoyable to work on the command line, not having to leave my tmux window to manage my entire Zettelkasten or keep my journal. My Vim configuration is always subject to change, but I only use 3 plugins that are related to my note-taking in Zettelkasten. So the Vim configuration is always up for changing, and I've done a video introducing my first startup into converting my NeoVIM config to Lua, which has been very interesting nonetheless. And I've referenced a lot of things in doing so, but NeoVIM has a lot of tools that make it very powerful for working with. So Telescope, I cannot live without this plugin any longer. It is a fuzzy searcher integrated into my editor. I can search for files, but I also search within files using ripgrep and preview the files as I'm searching. Here's what a search for NeoVIM looks like. So Telescope is really powerful. That one is made by TJ DeVries, one of the NeoVIM developers. I can navigate through all the search results blazingly fast using only the keyboard, and I can preview the files by scrolling up and down on the window on the right hand side. So I like the preview thing. So if I open up LF, I've got the preview off on the side, and it's very handy to see what is going on with the different files that you're looking at and get a good look at, oh, this is what this file is, and so on and so forth. And you can get a lot of powerful information in that preview. In this case, you're working with just plain text, and so it's really easy to display. And I haven't quite used Telescope in my full workflow when I'm working in NeoVIM, but I've also haven't used Harpoon fully either. So Marksman LSP is a markdown language server which helps me format my documents and create links between notes. And he's probably got Tree Sitter honestly too. When I start to make a link, it will search through my entire Zettelkasten and look for matches based on the file name or markdown headers. Here it shows me suggestions related to markdown. So it looks like this is like the VimWiki markdown link. So when you do the double square brackets, it knows, okay, I'm looking for a file like this. And then it searches through the different options that you have so that you can link another file. And that's where the digital has an advantage, in that you can much more easily link different files together and switch between them, versus a analog system. You have to link, when you're trying to link systems, you have a reference to it, and then you have to go and search that other reference in another book. And so I've gone through even my bullet journals from the past few years and sorted through information, copied information or migrated information per se to future journals, and dropped other information as well. So then Pandoc. According to Wikipedia, Pandoc is a free software document converter widely used as a writing tool, especially by scholars, and as a basis for publishing workflows. I use the Pandoc plugin for Vim to export my notes to different formats when I need to. However, the thing I like most about it is that it renders my notes very nicely as I'm writing them. I really like how headings work, and that it will make text bold while editing, which did not work when I used NVIM Markdown. So depending on your system, yeah, it can do different it kind of halfway depends on your highlighting system too. I think if we go back to, let's go to looking for a directory. That's not a directory. Okay, here we go. So if I go into, yeah, this one, you can see not much going on. That's a .wiki file. Where's an MD? I've got to, you know, I'm really good at this. It's down here. Thank you for coming along with me on this adventure. So if we go into like the README here, for example, you can see that it highlights the headers, but it doesn't bolden them. I can go up to the changelog, and we've got kind of the same thing going on. TreeSitter doesn't exactly highlight. Well, it highlights, it just doesn't exactly bold and things like that unless I tell it to. So Pandoc's really nice because I've implemented it as a command in regular Vim before, and it would automatically convert the file that I was working in to the .doc and then go from there. So to facilitate my workflow, I wrote a few bash scripts. When I want to take a note, I run the zet command from the command line. This command is a bash script I wrote, which creates a file in my inbox, adds a template, opens the file in NeoVIM. I can either provide a file name to it as an argument, or it will ask me to provide one. I have another script named blog, which is used to create notes that I intend on publishing on my website. These files are stored in a different location, use a different template. The blog script has a pub function that will publish a script directly to my website in a few seconds after I'm done writing. Identifiers and file names. Zettelkasten method assigns unique identifiers to notes. I generate a unique identifier from the current date and time, but I never really use these identifiers. However, since I've been doing this consistently from the beginning, I'll keep generating them to make my system future-proof. Who knows, maybe they'll become useful someday when I suddenly find a use case for it. I've seen other people use unique identifiers and file names as well. No big for me. I use Markdown Marksman LSP to create links between my notes and NeoVIM. The LSP server is based on headings and file names, so I'm really glad that I chose to use file names such as Fundamentals of Bicep MD right from the beginning. So tags and links. If you're deep into note-taking systems as I am, you might come across the problem of using tags versus using links for your note-taking system. I primarily use Markdown links to create links in my notes. This is also why you'll sometimes see these things in my public Zettelkasten. The links between notes are rendered beautifully by Obsidian in the graph view. This is also why I'll always try to keep my system compatible with Obsidian, even though I've moved away from the application almost entirely. Here's a graph view of my Zettelkasten. For the notes in Zettelkasten, which are intended to be published on my website, I use tags in the YAML formatter. These are used by my static, so Hugo, which is useful to the readers. So you're able to put your YAML up front and keep track of it, and then the tags will be auto-sorted by Hugo. That's about it. The system is minimalistic set of tools utilized for maximum productivity. It's NeoVIM with a few plugins and a couple of helper scripts I wrote in Bash that store Markdown files in a directory structure I find meaningful. After using many different application solutions, I'm extremely satisfied with the system I built for myself, which is very basic, free from distractions, and tailored to my own needs. So let's see, I want to reflect on a certain topic or write an article. I go through my collection of notes and link them together. Find that creation of these links will stimulate even more new connections and associations, and end up with new ideas and topics to study. I love the simplicity of the system. Enables me to capture notes quickly while I'm working or studying with very little effort. By storing my note collection on my iCloud Drive and in GitHub, they can be accessed from all devices across all different operating systems. Hope this article may give you some inspiration to start building your own note collection. Don't need to build your own system like I have done. Any app that satisfies your needs can be used. Keeping notes on things I encounter in life is one of the most enriching habits I've acquired. It will be interesting to see how large my collection grows over the years. So again, part of it is like if you're looking at it from your smartphone, the issue that I can see is that some of these tools won't cross over very well to an iPhone on your iCloud. It's more conducive to GitHub, but you could set up a Nextcloud and store it that way and things like that. Those are options, but it means you are very server agnostic when it comes to backing up your stuff. The other issue is, how do you do it from your smartphone is like quick logging or keeping track of things that way. Because do you always have your computer on you, and is it that quick to get up and going that you can easily do it? And if you're doing it from your smartphone, how do you keep from getting distracted going into your thing when you've got like 10 notifications popping up? Or do you have all your notifications turned off, which is quite possible. I like this system overall. The only hang up I have is the ability to quickly go into and edit, or quickly go into and log things when you're away from home. And that becomes one of the big issues that I see. The other thing is Zettelkasten has there's a Zettelkasten plugin for NeoVIM that allows you to do your text-based markdown Zettelkasten wiki, your journal-based stuff, and uses Telescope. So find notes by name, tag, or by searching within note text. Find daily, weekly notes by date. Vault, support multiple separate note collections. Place and follow links to your notes or create new ones with templates. Find notes, let's see, other notes, support links for headings. Alias link names to keep everything clean and tidy. Toggle to do status. Paste images from clipboard, insert links to images, image previews, and calendar support. So if you're looking for a system like this looks like the plugin that'll do all of it for you now. Because you've got your calendar here, you've got your main stuff here, you've got your Telescope here for your searching, your image rendering that you can link here. Backlinks. Let's see. And they've got all your major NeoVIM plugin stuff. So lazy NVIM, if that's your thing that you're using, then you can use it, and things like that, pretty easy. So I'm not going to set it up because I've already taken long enough going through that article. But yeah, note taking, I would combine digital and analog together to make it a little bit more robust, because then you can always take what did I map that to? You can always take your analog notes and migrate them to digital notes on a weekly basis. Honestly, if you've got your pocket notebook catch-all, then it shouldn't be that hard to sort things out, but that depends. So like even here, I've got video ideas, I've got RPGs, I can go into here, I can go back here, I can backspace back, then I can go into like this one and just go through like even different ideas, so like different individual products and things like that, to go through different ideas and so on, and keep track of a lot of different things in the process and have it all linked together. The only issue is that VimWiki doesn't sort things out like his system does. So you run into that issue of linking things, but then everything ends up being an unsorted mess in a singular VimWiki folder, like here. So combining the two and sorting things out well, I really, really like it. If you enjoyed the video, then like, comment, subscribe, feed the algorithm, boost the video up, share this video with your friends. If you found it informative or you just want to chat, I've got plenty of places in the description, Discord, Guilded, and what have you. Check those out, and I will see you guys in the next one.